We're going to tackle ageism here and talk about what is really going on. Definitely, there is discrimination, and in fact, I saw a job posting, and this was on LinkedIn, where one of the job requirements was that you be a digital native. And I thought, how do they get away with that? Like, how is that even legal? And doesn't LinkedIn police that kind of stuff? So it's out there, and I hear stories constantly from my clients, and it's painful and wrong. And there are also some other undercurrents that are going on that you can address during this search. And so we're going to talk about each one of these. And usually they are unspoken and often, even on the interviewer's part, subconscious. They're not even aware that they're worried about this. And if you can subtly reassure people, and the way to do this is generally with some seemingly offhand comments, but they're actually well rehearsed and considered ahead of time and really woven in with a lot of intention, but in a way that they seem organic. And so let's talk about each one of these. Okay, so the first thing is, can we afford you? Are you going to be expecting a salary that is out of our range? And can we hire someone who has significantly less experience, but we think is going to be capable of at least, getting to 80% of what you're capable of? And, when people are looking at their budget, that is a real concern of theirs. And so sometimes they won't even consider you because they suspect that you will be requesting a salary that is out of the range that they have available or more than they're willing to offer. And so a lot of what you need to do in your preparation as you consider your targets, and we'll talk some more about this in the next module when we talk about your personal marketing plan, is what are you seeking in terms of level and salary? And if you are willing to scale back and prioritize some other elements of your position. And I hear this from people frequently where they say, salary is not my top priority. And so what we do is we work on some scripting to help them be able to introduce that concept early in the process and also do it in a way that doesn't cause a red flag for people. So you will see there is an attachment for a PDF document for this module where there are scripts embedded in there. And what you'll also find out is salary comes up often very quickly in the conversation in a screening interview. And often it's with someone who is an HR person who generally has no idea about the scope of the position, and they've just been handed this list of questions. It also can come up in an applicant tracking system, so that is an even earlier part of the process when you are at risk of being screened out. All of that is covered in the salary handout, and it will be covered in even more detail in the module on salary negotiation. So take a look at that. Okay, here's the other thing. It's okay if salary is your top priority. And if that is the case, then your approach is going to be adjusted where you're intentionally going to be delaying the conversation about salary until you are further in the process, until they have a better sense of who you are, and until they are more attached to you and can see the value that you're bringing. And so that is an approach that we call deflect and defer. And so that is also covered in that handout. Okay, unfortunately, there is a perception, whether it's a misperception or not, that people who are over 50 are out of touch with technology and also less malleable in terms of adopting technology as it changes. And I will tell you, I have a little hissy fit when Facebook changes its user interface, and and I just feel like, why can't things stay the same? So I think there is some validity to this. Now, for many people, especially people who are in technology, in the technology field, they are extremely advanced in their technology prowess. And so this is an unfair characterization. And in that situation, usually your resume and your LinkedIn profile and the list of your skills, as long as you have deleted or de-emphasized very early and out-of-date technology, then this one is probably not going to be very relevant for you. However, if it is something that concerns you and you feel like, hey, I've been doing the same position or been with the same company for the last 30 years, and I actually don't know how to use a lot of the kind of taken for granted type of technology. In that case, it is going to be very important that you invest some time, and this should go on your goal spreadsheet for things that you want to make sure that you spend some time on. And so there's each of these areas. You can do professional development, and there's a list of all of those in the handout there. So make sure you look at that. Look at the reverse mentoring article and talk to people who are in a different generation than you and get advice from them. And if you feel like, I am not going to invest any money in a course right now, I don't have the budget for it right now, just go to YouTube, because you're probably going to be able to find a tutorial for what you're seeking. Also, you'll find a lot of workforce centers and public libraries will offer you free access to very detailed and highly regarded and effective tutorials. Google News Alerts, that's another thing you can do to stay on top of what's trending, just so that you can insert comments into some interviews. And you can also make sure that even during the interview process, you are demonstrating your skill level. And that can be even in simple things such as how your resume is formatted. Whether you are adept and have rehearsed on video interviewing platforms, whether you've attached video or multimedia to your LinkedIn profile, and also, even if you have some of these courses that are in progress, you should be listing them in your education and professional development section on LinkedIn, and also on your resume. Okay, so this is the next possible concern that people will have. Their question, unspoken and even often unconscious to them, is, how long are you going to work for us? Are you on the brink of retirement and you just want to have a couple of years in until you build up your retirement or reach the age of Social Security or no longer need health care? And it's fine if that is true for you, and that is a great goal for you. You just want to make sure that you're filtering around this and also very attuned to perception. And so, because another concern for them is this, especially if their health care is self-funded, they're going to be thinking, is this going to be a huge drain on our health insurance cost? If you present as somebody who is having some health crisis, or you reference past health crises. Also, if they're concerned, are going to be asking for a lot of flex time, which it's fine if that's a priority for you. It's better if that comes after you have secured the offer. And it's important too, if it's going to be critical for you and you have a long runway in your job search, for you to screen for that. But let's talk about how to do that in a way that doesn't set off red flags for them, but still gives you the information that you need. These areas, and so one of the things you can do, it's as simple as something like wearing a pedometer, one of the wristbands, or talking about how, I wish I'd worn my pedometer as you're climbing the stairs. That would have been, so that people know, I prioritize fitness in my life, and I take care of myself. And also just filtering a little bit and being careful not to mention elderly parents, or if you take care of your grandkids, or if you have some demands from your family that will pull on your time. You want to be really careful about holding off on saying anything around that. You'll also often get, and this question just seems, I have had people complain about this question and think, why are they asking this? And it's, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And that actually comes up surprisingly often in an interview. And usually what they're trying to do is get this sense of, are you a short timer? Especially if that's showing up on your resume history. And they're thinking, is it worth it for us to invest in this person's training? Because it takes a while to onboard someone. So the thing that you want to say when you get that question is, technology is changing so quickly that it is really difficult to predict where the market will be and what platforms we'll be using in 5 years. But I will tell you that I take seriously my commitments, and I can see a lot of growth potential in this particular role, and it fits very strongly for my goals. And you can explain some of those goals too. Okay, so this last one is having people who are significantly younger than you on your team, but mostly people who are going to be your supervisor. And what happens for them is, and often they don't even realize this, but they think they're intimidated by you. And they think, is this person going to undermine my authority and actually split the team? And so the couple of things that you need to be careful of is screen and filter your own comments about things like, oh yeah, my son is exactly your age. Things like that. Even though if we think them and it's true, you want to steer around those potholes. And you also want to, you can subtly compliment people where you can talk, like if they talk about adopting a particular technology or a particular approach, you can say, I can tell that you have a lot of vision and that you are an effective leader for this team. And I'm pleased to have the opportunity and hopeful that I'll be able to work under your leadership. Just subtly acknowledge that you recognize their leadership and you would empower their leadership. You got to be careful with this because you don't want to overdo it, because then it feels like, why are you emphasizing this too much? So there is a balance around making sure that you're not putting too much attention on this. You also need to offer some anecdotes and seemingly offhand comments that talk about team cohesion and your experience in working with people who are in different generations. But you don't want to go straight at it, because then it just seems like, why are you making such a big deal about this? So be careful that you're sliding these things in and sort of like, oh, and by the way, kind of comments. And also, as you develop the list of what we call CARB stories, CARB, that will be covered in the interview module. And I'm going to ask you to develop some stories to take in with you for your interviews. And a couple of those should include some references and anecdotes about multi-generational teams. And then the last thing that you can do is make sure that, like, your LinkedIn profile has a lot of connections from people of different generations. So it's on you to do that outreach and invite people to connect with you. And especially if you have been supervised by someone who is younger than you, ask that that person give you a recommendation on LinkedIn. And we'll cover that during the LinkedIn module. I'll show you how to do that. But it will be important because that person's picture will be there and it will indicate that that person supervised you. So that's a really easy and very effective way to get that in. So these are the action steps associated with this particular section. Make sure that you research your salary options, rehearse your scripts around that. Really take a hard look at your technology skills and make a plan. Incorporate that on your spreadsheet, your goals spreadsheet. Also, really be mindful of how you're presenting yourself. Even things as simple as, is your clothing up to date and modern? Do you need to update things like your hairstyle or your LinkedIn photo? You want to make sure that your LinkedIn photo is a current photo. You don't want to misrepresent your age, and you don't need to hide it. You have nothing to hide, but present yourself in the best light. Also, be aware and intentional about the comments and anecdotes that you offer. Rehearsal pays off. And see when you can work things in that support and sort of subtly reassure the interviewer and put to rest some concerns that they may not even know they have.